as part of a project known as LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES. That sounds wordy, but what it means is that we are part of a fantastic project funded by LIFE, which is an EU funded body, to look at seagrass. And that's basically the topic of today's live video. We're going to be talking all about seagrass, what it is, why we love it, and why we want to protect it, and how you can help at home. And your help at home has been massively appreciated. Thank you so much for helping us through this tricky time. Your donations, your support, your likes on our page, it really does help us out and we appreciate it. If at any point through this you feel like you want to donate or you want to like our page, there are links in the description for this live feed, so go ahead, have a look. But on with the video, we're going to talk about seagrass, and the first thing we want to get into is what is seagrass. You might have heard of grass on land, hopefully. Some of you might be able to see that out your window at the moment. Seagrass, as the name suggests, is grass under the sea. And it is very special because it is the only flowering plant in the ocean, the only one. You might be thinking, what's that green stuff as I go to the beach? We can go look at that green stuff that you see when you go to the beach, and we'll have a little think about why it's a bit different to seagrass. In our wonderful wave tank here, you can see we have some seaweed. Seaweed is what we see when we go to the seashore. You have to be careful not to slip on it. When it's under the water, it has fantastic creatures living in it, but fundamentally it is very different to the seagrass that we're discussing today. Seaweed is an algae. It doesn't have any roots. It sticks to rocks through a thing called a holdfast, which we might be able to see just behind that rock there. And it gets all of its nutrients from the water. It's a pretty cool thing, but not what we're talking about today. So why is seagrass different? Seagrass, as I say, is a flowering plant. It has a root structure, just like plants on land, and it makes seeds, and it has flowers, and it's amazing. We're not just going to be talking about the seagrass today, though. We'll catch up with some real seagrass later on to see what it looks like. We'll catch up with the real thing in a little while. But first of all, we want to show you some of the animals that live there, because it's a fantastic habitat for loads of creatures, and really importantly, it's actually a nursery habitat. Now what that means, you can probably guess what that means. It means it's a home for baby animals. Lots of animals that would live out in the open ocean or in bigger habitats when they grow up do actually spend their juvenile years, their baby years, in the seagrass beds. And actually just down in the corner here we can see a tiny little place, a little tiny flatfish. They do like to bury under the sand, so you can just see his eye poking out there. These guys, when they're very little, they do like to shelter in the lovely, safe habitat of a seagrass bed. Now you can see he's nice and flat lying on the floor. You can just see his gill moving there as he breathes nice and gently. Lovely. Now these guys are flat when they're older, but actually when they're born, they're an upright fish swimming around as fish that you might have in your tanks at home, or that you'll see swimming around in our tanks here at the National Marine Aquarium. After only a little while, sometimes a few days, sometimes a few weeks, they will start to flatten out and sink to the bottom of the sea. And that seems like a bit of a disadvantage, but that's where they want to be. They start to lie onto their side, they move an eye around their head, so they actually get a whole eyeball and slide it all the way around their head, so they have two poking up into the water to look out for predators and for food and things like that. And they spend the rest of their life just resting on the bottom of the sea, which sounds great. You can see how beautifully camouflaged they are as well. Really, really clever. Fantastic. So that's just one of the many, many baby animals that you'll find living in a seagrass meadow. You'll also get lots of crustaceans, lots of crabs that you will have met on the last Facebook Live, if you tuned into that one. But it's also home to some very delicate animals. So you've got animals that maybe wouldn't survive anywhere else. And we're going to go and meet one of those now. Just in the tank over here we have some of our lovely seahorses. So we're just going to pan around and see if we can catch sight of those at the back there. Wonderful. Nice and resting. Now this is the position that you'll find seahorses in most often. Nice and still, not moving around too much. And that's because they are not some of nature's best swimmers. They prefer to stay still. You can just see the dorsal fin, the fin on the back of the seahorse there. It's nice and still at the moment, but when they swim, they beat that fin at up to 70 times a second. I challenge you at home to try and move your hand that fast. It's not easy, but with that sort of speed of fin movement, they still only reach a few meters a minute of speed through the actual ocean. So not very good swimmers, which is why they prefer to stay put as much as possible. Now the way they do that, I'm not sure if we can catch sight of their tails, but they've got amazing tails, a bit like a monkey. It's known as a prehensile tail. It's great for gripping onto things, just like your hand when you're doing monkey bars in the playground. They like to grip on with that tail. It's nice and strong. They do sometimes hold on to each other as well, which is very cute. And it keeps them nice and still, nice and safe. Now if a seahorse were to drift out into the open ocean, they could get caught by a current or by waves, and that would not be great because they wouldn't maybe have the strength to get back to their safe habitat. Now seahorses are fish. They don't look much like fish, but they are fish. One of the only fish to have a neck, apparently. They are covered in armoured bony plates, and they're fantastic hunters as well. They stay very still, but they are very good at hunting. They hunt on plankton, the tiny plants and animals that swim around in our ocean. Actually, we just had a question there from Jenny Britton. What does it eat? Fantastic, thank you, Jenny. They eat plankton, so tiny plants and animals that float around our ocean and form a superfood that lots of animals rely on. In particular, they're after something called a copepod, which is a type of animal plankton, or zooplankton, we like to use that word, and they are fantastic at hunting it. I really like that Amanda Cargo just said she loves seahorses. They really are magical. You're quite right, they are. Wonderful. And actually just across the corridor here, in another tank, we do have some of their close relatives, the pipefish, another resident of the seagrass beds local to us here. We have a greater pipefish here, just having a little bit of a swim around, and you can see from the shape of their heads, shape of their snouts, and that bony plating down their bodies, that they're in the same group of animals, very similar in lots and lots of ways. Fantastic. So the seagrass you can see in this tank here, little secret for you all at home, unfortunately it is not real. We will be introducing you to some real live growing seagrass and talking to you all about that in just a moment, but that seagrass unfortunately not real. We do have to be very careful with the growing of our seagrass. The conditions are very specific, so tanks have to be set up very carefully to grow seagrass. It's not something we could grow at home, unfortunately. We've just had a question from Sarah Chapman there. Do they have names? That's such a good question. And I'm afraid I'm not sure. I feel like our seahorses should have names. Send in some suggestions on the chat there, on your comments, if you can think of some names for some seahorses. You never know, we might pick one of them. Fantastic. So there you have it. There's just a couple of the animals there that spend their lives in the seagrass. So seahorses in particular spend their whole lives there. It's just such a sheltered, amazing habitat for a delicate creature, which doesn't like to be disturbed and likes to be left alone. And then you've got the baby animals that will go on to live in other habitats as they grow up. And some of them actually end up on our dinner plates. There's all sorts of animals, commercial species, we know them as animals that would be fished when they're nice and big, when they're adults, when they have a nice long life. They actually spend their juvenile years, their baby years, living in these amazing habitats. I want to show you some real seagrass now. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop through one of our areas behind the scenes, and we're going to pop down to another room where we've got some live seagrass actually growing. Let's go.
Half one, sorry. Oh, okay. So, whenever.
These very exciting stairs. And then we're going to pop out in the aquarium. We're going to see a very special room where we're growing some seagrass. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this live video, I'm working on a project called LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES, which is a life-funded project. And it's looking at restoring seagrass meadows to a better state, to make them more healthy and more capable of supporting all the amazing life that's out there. In this room, it's a bit loud, so I'm going to talk a little bit louder to you. Just down behind me here, we've got an amazing tank with seagrass actually growing, so we can have a quick look just down here. Now as you can see, just like your plants at home, we've got it growing in pots. Obviously it doesn't grow in pots in the wild, but part of our project here, part of the ReMEDIES project, is to grow seagrass in lab conditions and then put it back into the wild. So replanting the habitat, restoring the habitat back to what it once was. And the reason we have to do that is because it is a very delicate plant. As you can see on the video there, it's really delicate. You can see not the roots themselves, but you can see how it goes into the sediments, into the sand there. Underneath the sand there is a very, very delicate root structure. And any damage to that can make the plant very poorly and unable to grow. Now that damage can be because of things like boats going really fast. It does grow in really shallow waters. So if boats go quite fast through shallow water, the turbulence, the disturbance of the water can damage the seagrass. So we have to be aware of that when we're using our waters. We can also have damage from things like anchors. But all of these things are very easy to help just by knowing where the seagrass is, knowing how to anchor properly and looking after it. And that's all goals of this ReMEDIES project that we are a partner of here at the aquarium. Okay, so there's our lovely seagrass. A fun fact I found out this morning is that our live seagrass here is hand cleaned. So in the wild, it's not just those fish and seahorses that will have living there. There'll be loads of other fish, there's snails, there's crabs, maybe going around actually picking some of the algae that you can see growing here, just on this blade here. I might be able to just catch that with a reflection from the light. You can see that would be eaten off by other animals in the wild. It's sort of self-cleaning, if you like, but because we don't have that in here, one of our husbandry team, our biologists, do come around and hand clean the leaves. So you can see they've done a particularly good job on some of them this morning, looking nice and shiny and clean. We do also have a couple of snails in here. I don't know if you can show this one here. We've got a snail there, but I'm not sure he's enough to clean all of them, so we give him a hand. Wonderful. Lovely. So these are the plants that we have at the moment. What we would like to do now is actually show you our purpose-built, state-of-the-art growing facility, which is here as part of the LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES Project. And we're going to meet our scientists on site who's working to grow that seagrass. So we can go and meet them now. Going to go through here again. So, as part of this project, as I said, we are restoring the habitat. And to do that, we need to collect. We mentioned that seagrass is a flowering plant, which means it licks seeds, it broadcasts and it spawns them into the ocean. They settle and grow, just like plants on land. What we do is we go out with our divers, we collect the seagrass seeds, we bring them back here to the National Marine Aquarium, we look after them really, really well, and the goal is to grow them in our lab. Now our lab is very new, it has only just opened, so there's no seagrass plants here at the moment, but what we do have is our lovely Emma. So we can have a little chat with Emma and she can tell us a little bit more about her job and what she's going to be doing to grow seagrass here in the lab. Over to you, Emma.
Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Emma. I am the Seagrass Cultivation Officer here at the National Marine Aquarium. And probably Lotte has told you that this is part of a big project that's funded by LIFE EU funding. It's called the LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES Project to reduce the effects of erosion and disturbance on different habitats in the marine environment. And one of the things that we're looking at here is to improve seagrass habitat in the marine environment. So it's a really critically endangered habitat. Each year there's a reduction in the amount of seagrass out there in the marine environment. And what this facility here behind me is going to do is to take some of that seagrass in and try to grow it in the lab so that we can replant it into the marine environment in the hope of restoring some of this habitat and restoring it for all the fish living in it. It also reduces the impacts of things like coastal erosion. It's a really, really good carbon trap. So if you know anything about climate change, then you'll know that one thing that we need to do is reduce our carbon impact, and seagrass is really good at storing carbon, so there's lots of things. So this is the first of its kind cultivation facility in the UK, and we want to grow about 8 hectares of seagrass and replant it out in the marine environment, and each year we'll be sowing up our little seagrass seeds in these tanks. So what we'll do is we'll take them as little seedlings that are in the seagrass shoot. So seagrass is exactly like terrestrial grasses, it flowers and it creates seeds. And then we'll plant them up in little planting units and germinate them, meaning that the seed will start producing the plant itself. And then what we'll do is they'll be placed in these specifically designed containers where we can alternate the flow and the light conditions and the temperature to get it to the conditions that are really good to make seagrass grow. And then hopefully this time next year we'll already be well on the way to restoring our seagrass habitat on the south coast. So thank you very much for coming to visit me. I think some of you might have some questions. So if you do have any questions, just pop them in the comments box and we'd be happy to answer them.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much, Emma. So as you see from the red, loads of work going on here as a part of the project to support Seahorse. Really exciting stuff. I'm so excited to see what's going to be happening. I'm just going to choose cats.
So these are the tanks. As you can see, there's loads of room to grow all our seagrass. This is just one of the tanks, so we actually have 9 in total. And probably Ollie can zoom in on our little taps here. So there's water flow coming through here, so this will replicate the conditions that seagrass experience in the marine environment. So we have some questions coming in. Lindsay Jane asks, has all the UK coastline been mapped for seagrass habitats? Yeah, so there's been loads of work done on seagrass habitats in the UK. So Natural England, who actually are project managers on this project, and they're heading up this entire project, do a lot of survey work to monitor the extent and the condition of our seagrass habitats. So we do have a really good idea from them, and also from a lot of academics and different universities that have done a lot of work around the UK coastline, and that's how we know that seagrass habitats are in decline, because they are monitored each and every year so that we can understand what's happening to the habitat and to their health as well. It's really important. So it's not just that the habitats are in decline, but also the health of the seagrass beds themselves are in decline, and that's because they experience these disturbance events. So things like pollution, runoff from rivers, agricultural runoff can kill the seagrass because it can no longer breathe, and inadequate moorings or recreational uses that they don't realise it's really important habitats in the marine environment that can be really easily disturbed, and once it's disturbed then it does struggle to regrow as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Emma. Wonderful. So you've seen amazing things. You've spoken to Emma. We're going to pop out the front again now. And see some more. Okay, so seagrass is just great. That's sort of what we've been trying to get across through this. It's not just a habitat, but as you learned from Emma there, it also gives us so many other things. It protects our coastline, it helps us to fight climate change. And it's not actually just here in the UK. Obviously we have a soft spot for our UK seagrass beds, but actually there's seagrass around the world, in the tropics as well. So we're going to see some of the fish here. In this tank in particular we've got some lovely fish called Guy Cardinal Fish. So just down at the bottom here, this lovely silvery fish with black stripes, beautiful fish that lives amongst the seagrass. These are actually amazing fish. The dads actually look after the babies, just like seahorses actually. These ones though, they do look after them in a very odd way. They actually look after them in their mouths. So the dads will have the eggs in their mouths, they'll brood them in there, look after them, and even once those eggs hatch, the babies will continue to live in the dad's mouth. And it's only when they get a little bit too big that he starts to spit them out and they go off on their own to explore the world. So they shelter in seagrass beds, particularly when they're young. So another fish that uses those seagrass beds. Some other fish will use the seagrass beds when they're young, but then actually move to coral reefs. So we have a beautiful tank in this room, just over here, with some real coral in it. So we can show you some real coral, another fantastic habitat in our ocean. And one which is supported by seagrass meadows. The beautiful fish we have in this tank, we've got a lovely powder blue tang just swimming into the coral there, going away from us. This real life coral is grown here at the National Marine Aquarium. We cultivate it carefully, look after it, grow it, and then pop it in our tanks for our fish to living in amongst, just as they would in the wild. As I say, these fish here would potentially spend their juvenile baby years in tropical seagrass meadows. But it's not just the fish. The amazing thing about tropical seagrass meadows is the other animals. You've got things like sea turtles, you've got dugongs, you've got my personal favourite, the manatee, all of these incredible creatures living in the seagrass, eating it. It supports a massive array of animals and life in our oceans. Now, as you got a bit of a hint there from Emma, it is also a declining habitat. It does need our help. It does need our support, and here at the Ocean Conservation Trust, here at the National Marine Aquarium, we are supporting seagrass through being a partner in this wonderful project, the LIFE Recreation ReMEDIES Project. Just like to say a massive thank you to you guys as well, because it's not just through our projects. You guys supporting us through your donations and by liking our Facebook page really does help, and by getting on board with these videos and coming and seeing what we're up to. So once again, if you do feel like supporting us, there's some links in the description down below. Just head over and have a look. We are going to be wrapping up this soon, but we'll just answer a couple of questions before we head off. We've got a couple of things coming through here. Emily from Abby Matthews. Emily would like to know what the pink and orange fish are. They're some of my favourites. They are beautiful, aren't they? So just up here, these lovely pink and orangey fish. These are known as antheus. They're show-offs of the reef. They're always the most bright and the beautiful, and they have lovely long flowing fins. And it tends to be the boys that are the most colourful. They're showing off to the girls. So you can see they're really doing a good job of that there, looking really bright and beautiful. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got Rebecca Watts here. Where's Nemo? I bet you are all missing Nemo. Come over here and we'll show you our lovely Nemos swimming around in their tank. So here we go. Lovely. We've got our lovely clownfish swimming around in their anemones. We try to keep our tanks as natural as we can, as realistic to what they would have in the wild as we can, so we do give our clownfish anemones to live in. Wonderful. Okay, so I think we might wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us for this Facebook Live, and we do hope to see you again on here, and we actually hope to see you soon in person as well. We are really hoping that everyone will be able to come back to the aquarium really soon and see us, so we're looking forward to opening our doors to all of you again soon. Thank you so much. As I said before, your support really does help us, and